So, whew. All right, can you guys believe it is vlog 50? Today's video is all about how I changed my listing presentation and it started converting. It went from being super stressful to very little or no stress. So let's get the show on the road. Let's take you back to when I first became a real estate agent. But of course, back then there was a huge emphasis on a listing presentation. I knew I needed one, but I didn't know what was in that listing presentation. It was my first month in the business. I had an opportunity to take on an open house. And a nice young couple walked in and they essentially told me they have a home they need to sell. They invited me over to do a CMA. But after asking them a few questions, what they really wanted was to interview an agent to see if that agent could sell their home. And here's the thing. I've never been on a listing presentation. I had no idea what to do. So first thing Monday, I walked into the office and I spoke to my manager and I said, man, you know what? She was a woman, but man, I don't have a listing presentation. What do I do? And she says, oh, no problem. The company has one. And I worked for a big organization, a big brand brokerage, and they had these, I think it was 3 or 4 page listing presentations that they gave to all their new agents. And she walked me through. She says, okay, so here's point number 1. This is what you say. And I kind of tried to memorize it the best I could. But of course, there was a lot to memorize and I was super nervous. So I went on my first listing presentation and I did my hardest to try to regurgitate everything she told me to. And I flipped to the page, point number 1, and here's what we do as a company for you. I don't have any sales under my belt. I've never sold a house, so I had to rely on this listing presentation. I think I was at their house for 3 hours. I mean, I've never done this before. I tried my best to explain every point, and 3 hours later, I got my first listing. As time went on, I started asking people or other agents, what do you do for your listing presentation? And the more questions I asked, the more information I got. Well, here, add this point to your listing presentation. Before I knew it, my 4-page presentation was now 10 pages. And my stress level just started going up. Sometimes a coach would come in and they would say, hey, I've got an 8-week program. We'll teach you how to do listing presentations. They all had their versions of a listing presentation. And they say, well, you have to sit down and you have to say this. And here's how you close them. This is the script that you use. And there was so much information. The longer I was in real estate, the higher my stress level started becoming at my listing presentations. I felt like I had more things to say. My stress level would always be really high just before I walked into a listing presentation because in my mind, I wanted to know what I had to say, the perfect lines. I needed to change something because now I had a binder this thick. I remember one day, and I remember this is the day that things started changing for me. And I got called in and I was one of 3 agents that this family was interviewing. They were selling their home and I was the first agent in the door. And now I had this big ass binder and I started flipping through the pages. And I started trying to remember, okay, here's the point I had to make. And I had a lot of memorization to do with every point. And that listing presentation took 2 hours. And you know how people stare at you? You can tell that they're kind of thinking about something else. They're not really focused and paying attention to you. That was happening a lot at that listing presentation. And it got me a little bit nervous. And I said all the right things. I used the right lines and I laughed. Oh, and at the end I said, so, am I the person? And he said, well, you know what? We do have 2 other agents to go through. And I tried using every line that was taught to me. Well, did you like everything? Yes, I did. So do you think there's anything missing? No, nothing's missing. Do you like me as an agent? Yes. Do you think I could do the job? Yes, absolutely. So if there's nothing missing, why don't we get started? Well, we promised the other 2. Well, what if I called the other 2 and canceled the appointments? I mean, I did all of that. I mean, the lines were just coming out. And this guy just looked at me and said, no, I'm going to interview these agents. It wouldn't be right. And well, okay, fine. I mean, there was nothing else I could possibly say. So I said, how about this? I will give you a call tomorrow and you let me know. He says, no. I'll give you a call in a couple of days. Don't worry. It will be fine. The next day, No phone call. Okay, no problem. He said a couple days, I still have a chance. The following day, I was out in my backyard playing with the kids. My wife was there and my cell phone rang. I was like, that's him, everyone shut up. And I picked up and he says, okay, you're the agent. He sat me down and he says, listen, I like you as a person and everything about you is fine and I chose you because of you. But man, you've got to stop with this 2-hour presentation thing you gave me. I wanted to be polite. I wanted to stop you, but you were so into it and you were going through it and you've got to stop that. And it was a light bulb moment that I had because he was right. I was so focused on me and the right things to say that my stress level was always up here. And then I started thinking, I'm a huge fan of Tony Robbins. I love studying human psychology. And here's the thing, when you actually study humans, the psychology behind why we do what we do, you start recognizing that what the old school real estate coaches are telling you goes against everything that we want from others. So we're doing things to other people, but we don't want them done to us. We want to be treated like human beings. But I was always taught, here's the right things to say. Here are the scripts. Here are the objection handlers, and I used them. But something all of a sudden changed because I remember looking at Tony and he spoke to everybody like a person and he asked a lot of questions. And that was my aha moment. And I said, you know what? When he speaks to people and tries to get to know them, and I mean, I've watched him do this. I've observed him many times. It's a mutual conversation. It's give and take. You ask a lot of questions if you're genuinely interested. But it seemed like everything that I did up to that point in time, the only thing I was genuinely interested in is getting that signature, closing the deal, getting that listing, walking away with a commission check. And I'm guilty of it. 100% I was. And then I said, I'm going to take a step back because I'm way too stressed during these listing presentations because I don't know what the right thing is to say. And the next listing presentation I went on, I said, I'm going to do the complete opposite. I brought my listing presentation with me, but I never pulled it out. What I did pull out was a pad of paper. But I really had to think about this because it was a change of my brain pattern, the way I always used to do my listing presentations. And I said, okay, instead of regurgitating and talking, all I'm going to focus on is getting to know them and asking the right questions. Not even the right questions because I didn't know what they were. I just wanted to know about them. So I went on the listing presentation and there was no stress because the first time in my life I walked into a presentation, only end result I had was I'm just going to get to know them. I don't care if I get the listing. And I was genuine about that. I really didn't care. I made up my mind whether I got it or not. I didn't care. So I sat down with the sellers. I pulled out a pad of paper, a pen, and that was it. And I said, so tell me about you. What's going on in your life? Why am I here? Let's talk. There were a lot of let's talk things happening. And for the first time, I actually got to know people because I wasn't worried about the right things to say because I looked at them genuinely like I wanted to get to know somebody and I wanted to become their friends. And when we want to get to know somebody, it's not about what is the right thing to say. It's about asking them questions that revolve around them. And everything changed from that point in time. Everything. It was rare that I actually pulled out a listing presentation from that point on. It was rare. And if I did, it was only because I wanted to point to a page. I just grabbed a sheet of paper, a notepad, and I asked them questions. And I never got stressed out going into another listing presentation because the only thing on my mind was get to know them. What are their goals? Because their goals may not include me, and I had to be okay with that because I released the outcome every single time from that moment. Release the outcome, get to know them. And that's when my listing presentation went from kind of converting, because I was pretty good at it, to now converting, I would say almost every time. My stress level went from up here because I was focused on me to down here because I was focused on them. Does that make sense? It got to the point that after a while, I actually created a one-page listing presentation. And I don't have it with me. It kind of looks like this. I mean, you guys have seen that, right? The tribe agent. This is literally what my listing presentation looked like. I have it probably saved on my computer. What I'm going to do is put a link to it so you can download it in the description below this video. If it's there, then click on the link. If not, then maybe I haven't uploaded it yet, but I'll make sure to add that link to the descriptions. And my listing presentation became talking points. That's all it was, because it's not like a typical presentation. They're nothing more than just a guideline for me, so I know to keep track with people, to know what questions to ask. And that's it. The stress level was minimal. There was barely any, if any, stress. So I hope that helps. If you guys are stressing out over a listing presentation, try that. Take the focus off you, because that's the ego talking. When you involve your ego, your stress levels go up. But when you focus on them, you're not involving yourself, then the stress level goes down. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Makes sense, right, Bob? Bob says yes. Next time you go on a listing presentation, forget the end result. Forget about, I have to list them. Get that out of your head. In fact, go into the listing presentation expecting not to get the listing, and just be you. And it may be hard for some of you, for those that maybe have 1 or 2 listings a year and every dollar counts, and you have to go in there with the mindset that I need that listing presentation. That's a mood killer already in itself. It's like walking up to somebody in a bar and using every line to try to get them in bed or try to bring them home. They can sniff that a mile away, the desperation. So you're already at a disadvantage. I promise you, you're gonna go in with a different mindset. Not giving a crap whether you get the listing presentation or not is the difference maker. Focus on them. We're still shooting live over here. Look at that. I hope you guys enjoyed it in Facebook land. I hope you guys enjoyed it at home. This is the big 50, the big vlog number 50. I can't believe it. Time flies. It flies. It really flies. And before I forget, listen, hit like on this video if you liked it. If not, pretend the dislike button is not there. Just ignore it. Subscribe to this channel. Hit the bell button so YouTube will notify you every time I release a video. That's all for today. We'll chat tomorrow. Take care.